the girl no one wanted. The auction hall on the alien space station buzzed with voices. Rich traders, warriors, and nobles from many planets had come to buy slaves, warriors, servants, and even exotic pets. Lights flashed above each cage as one by one the slaves were sold. Loud cheers echoed every time a new owner claimed one. But in the far corner of the hall, a dark cage sat in silence. Inside it, a girl crouched low. Her skin was smooth but marked with old scars. Her hair was wild like a beast. Chains wrapped her arms and legs, though she didn't seem to care. Her sharp golden eyes stared at the crowd like a hungry predator. "No buyers yet for this one," the auctioneer shouted. "She's strong, fast, and dangerous, a fighter trained in the pits, untamed but full of potential." The crowd moved away. Some laughed nervously. Others whispered stories. "That's the one who broke her last master's arm. She bit off a guard's fingers. She doesn't listen, doesn't speak, just growls and fights." Guards stood nearby, blasters in hand, ready in case she broke free. She had done it before. The auctioneer tried again. "Come on, she's the last one, final offer, half price." No hands were raised. The hall began to empty. The other slaves had been sold, but no one wanted the girl in the cage. Then a calm voice spoke from the back. "I'll take her." Everyone turned to look. A human man stepped forward. He wore simple clothes, no weapons, no guards, just a small bag over his shoulder and kind eyes on his face. The auctioneer blinked. Are you sure she's not like the others? I said I'll take her," the man repeated. Silence fell over the room. The guards unlocked the cage slowly, weapons pointed. As the door opened, the girl didn't move. She just stared at the human. Her golden eyes narrowed, her muscles tensed. "She might kill you," one guard warned. The man smiled. "Then I'll take that risk." They released her chains and stepped back fast. The girl stood tall, taller than the human. She looked strong, dangerous. Her eyes stayed locked on him as if waiting for him to show fear. But he didn't. He held out a small card. "My name is Jace." She didn't answer. Jace turned and walked toward the exit, not looking back. The girl stood still for a moment. Then slowly she followed him. The crowd whispered again. "Is he crazy? She'll rip him apart. Humans are soft. He won't last a day." Outside the auction hall, Jace led her to a small hover cart. It wasn't fancy, but it had enough space and supplies. He handed her a bottle of water. She stared at it like it was poison. He sat down near the cart and opened his bag. Inside were bread, dried fruits, and a few protein bars. He took one out, broke it in half, and placed the piece on the ground between them. "I don't know your name," he said softly, "but I won't hurt you." Still, the girl said nothing. She didn't touch the food. As the night fell, Jace made a small fire near the cart. The girl sat with her back to him, watching the stars. Her hands were clenched, her body ready to fight, but she didn't run. Jace spoke again. "They called you a monster, but I don't believe that." For the first time, her head turned slightly. She looked at him from the corner of her eye. "You're not my master," she said in a quiet, cold voice. "I don't want to be," he answered. She didn't speak again, but her body relaxed a little. Jace didn't push. He wrapped himself in a blanket and lay down beside the fire. The girl stayed awake the whole night, staring at the stars. Her mind was full of questions. Why hadn't he chained her? Why hadn't he yelled? Why did he speak to her like a real person? No one had ever done that before. The next morning, Jace woke up and saw her sitting close to the fire. The piece of bread he had offered was gone. He smiled. "Good morning." She didn't answer, but her eyes weren't cold this time. The alien girl sat by the small fire, legs folded, hands still chained, but not locked. The chains hung loose now, not because Jace had forgotten, but because he had chosen to leave them that way. She could have run. She could have attacked him while he slept, but she didn't. Instead, she watched him. Watched how he carefully brewed something hot in a metal cup. Watched how he wrapped another blanket around himself when the wind blew cold. He wasn't like the others. He didn't bark orders. He didn't carry a shock collar. He didn't even look at her like a prize. He looked at her like someone. "I made tea," Jace said gently, breaking the silence. "Not sure if you're kind. Likes it, it helps calm the nerves." She didn't respond. Not with words. Not even a glance. He placed the cup near her, careful not to get too close. Then he sat down again, back to her as if he wasn't afraid. That was the strange part. He should have been afraid. She had killed stronger men before. But this human sat with his back turned, drinking tea like she was no threat at all. That night, it rained. Hard. Jace opened a small shelter from his hovercart and sat inside, dry and warm. The alien girl stood outside, letting the water soak her. Her people were used to pain. She had survived worse storms before. Still, he called out, "You'll get sick." She said nothing. He sighed. Then quietly he pulled out a second blanket, crawled out into the rain and draped it over her shoulders. She flinched. Her fist almost flew into his chest but stopped an inch before hitting him. He didn't move, just looked at her with those soft human eyes. "I'm not here to tame you," he said, "just to offer you something different." Then he turned around and walked back into the shelter. The next morning the chains were gone, not broken, just placed neatly on the ground beside the fire. Jace looked at them, then at her. She was sitting, with her knees pulled up, watching the fire like it had secrets to tell. "You took them off," he said. "I don't need them," she answered coldly. "Not when I choose to stay." That was the first time she admitted it. She was staying. Jace smiled. He nodded once and handed her a fruit. This time she took it. Bit into it slowly. Her golden eyes never left his face. Later that day, Jace set up a scanner to check her vitals. He didn't push her. He explained everything with patience. "Looks like you've got some internal bruising." "From the fights?" he asked. She didn't reply. He held out a healing patch. "May I?" She stared at him for a long time. Then, to his surprise, she nodded. He moved closer, pressing the patch to her ribs gently. Her skin was warm, her muscles tense. But she didn't move away, she didn't strike. She just stood there, breathing slowly. "You should rest more," he whispered. "No," she said. "If I sleep, I see things." Jace looked at her face. For the first time, he saw pain, not physical, but deep in her soul. "What's your name?" he asked softly. She hesitated. "Number 6, she said after a long pause. "That's not a name, that's a tag. I was the 6th child bred for the pit." He looked at her with quiet sorrow. "You deserve better than that," she shrugged. "Deserving doesn't matter." He leaned back. "Then let me give you a real name." She blinked. He pointed to the sky. "Eris, it means sky in an old human language. You're strong but free. That's what I see when I look at you." She said nothing for a long time, then barely above a whisper. "Eris?" He smiled. "Yes, Eris." That night, as the fire burned low and the stars filled the black sky, she spoke again. "Why did you buy me?" Jace turned his head to her, surprised. She was watching him closely, her voice filled with something strange. "Not fear, not hate, curiosity," he answered honestly. "Because I saw someone who didn't deserve to be locked up." She stared at the fire again, silent, but inside her chest, something unfamiliar stirred. Not anger, not pain. Hope. The nights on the edge of the wasteland were cold and silent, but that silence was slowly changing. Eris, once just a number, now learning her name, no longer stared at Jace like he was prey. She still didn't trust him completely. But she watched him. Listened to the way he hummed while making food. The way he talked softly to himself when fixing the hovercart. The way he looked at the stars as if he missed something far away. He didn't try to train her. He didn't ask her to serve him. He didn't even ask questions anymore. And that's what confused her the most. Monsters always asked. They always wanted something. But Jace gave without taking. One morning, as the two sat beside a warm fire, Jace reached out without thinking. A strand of Eris's hair had fallen into her food. She didn't notice. He moved gently, brushing it away with his fingers. That was the first time he touched her skin. It was soft and trembling. Her eyes widened. Her breath stopped. Her body locked in place, waiting for pain or control or command. But none came. He had already pulled his hand back. "Sorry," he said with a small smile. "Didn't mean to startle you." She stared at him for a long time. Her mind spun like a machine trying to understand something it had never learned. That night, she didn't sit far from the fire. She sat beside him, and when she slept, she didn't face away. The next day, Eris woke before sunrise. Her dreams were filled with shadows. Old masters shouting, blood on the pit floor, hands grabbing her, chains cutting her wrists. But something new had appeared in the dream too. Voice. Calm. Human. "You're more than what they made you." She blinked in the early light and saw Jace still sleeping. His head rested on his arm. He looked peaceful, weak, and yet he had never once treated her like a weapon. She stared at her hands, hands once used only to fight. Now they were clean. Was it possible to become something else? Later that day, while Jace repaired the comms panel on the hover cart, he sliced his palm on a sharp wire. "Damn it," he hissed, pulling his hand back. Eris looked up. Her body moved before she could think. She grabbed a clean cloth, walked over to him, and took his hand. He froze. So did she. Their skin touched again, but this time it was her choice. Her hands wrapped gently around his, pressing the cloth to stop the blood. Jace looked at her, stunned. "You didn't have to," he said softly. "I know," she answered. She didn't let go, and Jace didn't ask her to. Later that evening, as they rested by a river near the desert's edge, Eris asked, something unexpected, "What were you before this?" Jace blinked. "Before what?" "Before you bought me." He sighed and looked at the sky. "I was a repair technician for a mining crew, left after a fight with my boss. He was hurting one of the workers. I stopped him and got fired." Eris was silent. "You helped someone and got punished?" He nodded. "Sometimes good things don't get rewarded, but I'd do it again." She looked at him quietly. That night, while Jace slept again under the stars, Eris stood watch. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. And when she saw a shadow move beyond the rocks, her body shifted into defense mode. She was ready to protect, not herself, but him. The next morning, Jace woke up with a blanket draped over him. He hadn't brought one out. He looked at Eris, sitting beside the fire, calm and alert. "You covered me?" he asked. She didn't answer right away. Then finally she said, "You're not used to sleeping in the cold." That was all. No emotion, no warmth. But for her, that was everything. A touch, a word, a choice. She didn't know what she was becoming, but for the first time in her life, Eris didn't feel like a weapon. She felt human, and it scared her, because she didn't know how long it would last. The peace didn't last. Eris had just started to feel the warmth of freedom. Her hands didn't shake anymore when she held food. Her sleep was deeper, her steps lighter. But peace was something her past refused to allow. It started with the mark, a black symbol painted in the sand found near their camp at dawn. A circle with 6 blades carved inside it. Jace didn't understand, but Eris did. Her heart froze the moment she saw it. "The trainers," she whispered. Jace looked at her. "Who?" She didn't answer. She simply walked to the cart and began packing supplies, fast, sharp, like someone who'd been trained to vanish in minutes. "Eris, what's going on?" Jace asked. "They found me," she said, voice low and steady. The ones who made me what I am, they want me back. Jace stood still, the air growing cold between them. Then we run, he said. She shook her head. They don't stop. They own me. I'm their lost property. Not anymore. She paused. Those two words felt heavier than any chain. That night, while camped deep in a canyon, Eris couldn't sleep. Memories returned like smoke, blurry and choking. She remembered the pit, the cold metal floor under her knees, the collar around her neck that shocked her when she disobeyed. The voice in the dark saying, "You were born for blood." And then came the memory she feared the most, the others, the children who didn't survive. Jace sat beside her quietly. He didn't press her. He just offered a drink and said, "You don't have to tell me, but you don't have to carry it alone either." Eris looked at him. No one ever said that to me before. He smiled gently. Well, now someone has. That, tight. She sat beside him until the fire died out. She didn't speak, but her silence felt different. It wasn't distance. It was trust. The next day, they reached a quiet outpost to resupply. But the moment they entered the station, Eris stopped. She smelled it first. A sharp scent. Metal oil and old sweat. The scent of the hunters. Jace saw her freeze. "What is it?" "Leave." "Now," she whispered. Too late. 4 tall figures entered the outpost. Black armor. Long cloaks. One had the same mark as the symbol in the sand. Their eyes met Eris's. Recognition flashed. "There she is," one said. 6. Eris's body moved on instinct, grabbing Jace and pushing him behind crates. A blast hit the wall where he had just stood. "I thought you said we could run," Jace shouted. "We can't," Eris growled. "They don't chase, they hunt." Blasters fired. Eris moved like lightning, flipping over boxes, using shadows, striking with bare hands when she had to. Jace tried to shoot back, but his weapon jammed. One hunter lunged at him, until Eris tackled the man, slamming his face into the wall with a scream of fury. It was the old Eris, the fighter, the monster, the one trained to kill. When it was over, the outpost was burning. 3 hunters lay unconscious. One escaped. Eris stood breathing hard, face covered in dust and blood. Jace looked at her, not with fear but sadness. Eris. She turned away, hiding her face. "I lost control," she said, voice shaking. "I became what they made me." "No," he replied firmly. "You protected me. You made a choice. I almost killed them. And you stopped, that's what matters." She sat down slowly, arms limp, head low. "Do you still trust me?" she asked. Jace didn't answer with words. He walked to her, knelt down, and took her hand. Gently, carefully. "Yes, I always will." As night fell, Eris sat alone under the stars. She wasn't crying, but the way she looked at the sky, as if asking it for answers, said everything. The past hadn't let go, but she wasn't running anymore. Now, she was ready to face it. The fire crackled softly in the desert night. Jace slept inside the shelter, his breathing calm. But Eris couldn't sleep. Not after what she did. Not after what she almost became. She sat on a rock with her knees pulled up to her chest, arms wrapped tight around them like she was trying to hold herself together. Her hands were still stained red. Her mind wouldn't stop replaying the fight, the rage, the silence inside her mind when the killing started, the joy she felt when breaking bones. That joy scared her more than anything. She whispered to the wind, "I was made to destroy. That's all I know." A voice replied, soft, low, not human. "No, you were made to obey. But now, you're learning how to choose." Eris stood quickly, eyes scanning the dark. "Who's there?" Out of the shadows stepped an old woman. Alien, like Eris, same golden eyes, same strange markings on her skin. But her face was lined with age and pain. "I was number 1, the woman said. The first girl bred for the pit, the first to survive, and the first to escape. Eris stared. You're real? I thought you died. The woman nodded. They told the others I did, but I ran. I hid, and now I help others do the same. Eris clenched her fists. I don't want help. I want peace. Then you must stop running from what you are, the woman said. Control the monster. Don't destroy it. Before Eris could answer, a shot rang through the air. Boom! A blast hit the rock near her shoulder. She spun around. Lights flashed in the canyon walls. The last hunter hadn't come alone. They brought a whole squad. Jace woke to the sound of blaster fire. He scrambled out, eyes wide. Eris. She appeared through the smoke, dragging him behind cover. Stay down. What's happening? They're back, and this time they brought fire. Eris charged out with nothing but a stolen blade. She didn't feel fear. She felt empty. Her feet moved without thought, her hands struck without mercy. One soldier fell, then another. Jace watched from behind, heart racing. The way she fought, it was terrifying. Fast, silent, perfect. She didn't blink, didn't pause. It was like watching a shadow cut through light. But something changed. Eris didn't stop, at disabling. She started aiming to kill. Her eyes were flat, hollow. The monster inside was awake again. Jace knew he had to act. He grabbed the small sonic flare from his gear and threw it toward her. It exploded in bright white light and sound. Stunning. Her for just 1 second. Long enough. Eris stumbled and looked around, dazed. Then she turned to see Jace. He wasn't angry, he wasn't scared, he looked heartbroken. That's not you, he said softly. That's them. You don't have to be what they made you. She breathed hard. Her blade slipped from her hand. Blood dripped down her arm. Then what am I? She whispered. You're Eris. You're free. She fell to her knees, the weight of all her choices crashing down like a storm. Tears streamed down her face. I tried to protect you, she said. You did, he replied, but not like this. Jace walked to her and held her shoulders, and for the first time in her life, she let someone hold her while she cried. The next morning, the battlefield was silent. The enemy had retreated, too afraid to push forward. Eris sat beside Jace, wrapped in a blanket. Her body was shaking, not from the cold, but from everything inside her finally breaking. I don't know how to be normal, she said. You don't have to be, he replied. You just have to be you. She looked at him exhausted, but something in her eyes had changed. The monster was still there. But now, it wasn't in control. She was. The sun rose slowly over the red hills, casting golden light on the quiet camp. Jace brewed morning tea like always. The air smelled of ash and dust from the recent fight, but the silence now felt heavier, like the calm before a storm. Eris hadn't spoken much since the battle. She sat near the edge of the cliff, staring into the wide valley below. Wind tugged at her dark hair, but she didn't move. Not even when Jace brought her a cup of tea. Thanks, she finally said, voice low and tired. Jace sat beside her. You don't have to decide anything right now. She glanced at him. But they'll come again, won't they? Yes, he said softly. And they'll bring more. Eris closed her eyes. I don't want to keep running. I'm tired of hiding. Then came the sound, a low hum in the sky. A sleek black shuttle descended just past the canyon wall. No markings, no flags, just one figure stepping out. A tall alien woman in gold armor with cold blue eyes. Jace stood up slowly. You know her? Eris nodded once. She was my handler. She called me her favorite until I started asking questions. The woman walked forward, alone. No guards. No weapons in hand. Number 6, she said, voice sharp. You've become a nuisance. I have a name now, Eris replied. Yes, the woman smiled cruelly. Eris, given by the human who thinks kindness can fix a broken tool. Jace's fists clenched. The handler raised her voice. We offer you one chance. Come back now, finish your training, earn freedom through victory. And if I say no? The woman looked at Jace. Then he dies. Slowly. Eris didn't move. The silence stretched for long seconds, then she stepped forward. Fine, she said, I'll come with you. Eris, wait. Jace stepped toward her, but she stopped him with a look. I have to, she whispered. Then she turned and walked toward the shuttle. The door opened. Inside was a familiar place. Cold steel walls, restraints, a dark cell at the back. The woman motioned her in. But just before Eris stepped through the door, she moved. Fast. Too fast. She spun, pulled the woman down, and slammed the shuttle door shut from the outside. The lock sealed with a hiss. Jace ran up as Eris picked up the handler's communication device. This is Unit 6, she said into it. Target down. Mission failed. Shuttle lost. The voice on the other end replied coldly. Understood. Retrieval canceled. Then silence. Eris crushed the device in her hand. Jace stared at her, stunned. What just happened? I tricked them, she said, panting. If they think the mission failed, they won't come again, at least not for a while. And her? Eris looked at the sealed shuttle. She'll live, but next time she'll know I'm not the girl she raised. That night, the fire was warm. Jace passed her a plate of food. This time, she didn't sit far. She sat beside him. He looked at her carefully. You could have gone with them and been safe, in a way. I don't want safety if it means losing who I am, she replied. And who are you now? Eris looked up at the stars, her eyes softer than they had ever been. I'm someone who chooses. I chose not to kill. I chose not to obey. And I chose you. Jace blinked. Me? She nodded. You gave me something no one ever gave me. A choice. He smiled, slow and warm. Then I'll make you a promise. I'll never take that choice away. Eris leaned against his shoulder just for a moment, not as a weapon, not as a slave, but as someone free. The monster inside her still lived. But now, she had something stronger. Her will, her choice, her name. The days passed, and for the first time in Eris's life, they weren't counted in pain. No battles. No voices shouting commands in her ears. No chains digging into her wrists. Just the quiet sound of Jace humming while he fixed his tools, and the soft crackle of fire as they shared meals under the stars. The camp no longer felt like a hiding place. It felt like home. One evening, Jace handed her a small metal ring with a glowing core. What's this? She asked, suspicious. It's a tracker, he said, but only if you want to wear it. It lets me find you if we ever get separated. She stared at it. For most of her life, trackers meant slavery, control, pain. But this one came with a choice. Slowly, she took the ring and slipped it onto her finger. I trust you, she said. That was all. But for her, it meant everything. News soon spread across nearby stations. A rumor of a human who tamed the beast girl, of a warrior who turned against her creators, of an ex-slave who chose peace instead of blood. One day a message came from a hidden colony, made of escaped fighters like her. They had heard of Eris. They wanted to meet her, not to judge her, not to fight her, but to follow her. Are you ready to lead? Jace asked. She shook her head. No one's ever ready, but I'm not afraid anymore. They took the hover cart into the mountains. The journey was slow, but peaceful. And when they arrived, Eris saw them, others like her. With marks on their skin, scars in their eyes, they stared at her and then they bowed. She stood frozen. I don't want followers, she said softly. But you gave us something to believe in, one of them replied. What's that? She asked. The girl smiled. That we can change. Jace stepped beside Eris and placed a hand on her shoulder. You don't have to lead them, he said. You just have to be you, that's enough. Eris looked at the people, at the fire in their eyes, and for once she didn't feel fear. She felt purpose. Weeks, passed. The colony grew stronger. Eris taught them how to fight, but only to protect. Jace fixed machines, built clean water systems, planted food gardens. Every night the two of them sat side by side under the stars. One night Jace asked her, "Do you ever miss the old you?" She looked down at her hands. "No," she whispered. "The old me was a weapon. This me, I'm someone worth keeping alive." He chuckled. "You've always been worth it." She leaned her head on his shoulder. They didn't need to say anything more. One night, a child from the colony ran to Eris, holding a small flower. "It reminded me of you," the child said, strong but still growing. Eris took the flower gently. She had never been given a gift before. Her hands shook again, but not from rage, from something else. She looked up at Jace, and for the first time she smiled, wide, soft, and real. The monster inside her still whispered sometimes, but now she had louder voices in her life, kind ones, hopeful ones, and one that said, "You are free." Her chains were gone, but something beautiful had replaced them. A bond, one not built on power, but trust, not on control, but love. And in the end, the girl no one wanted became the leader everyone needed.